Hello, this is Neil from ipaintgirls.com and masteredit.com, where you can get more free tutorials on drawing and writing. This series is how to write screenplays, and this particular video is about style. Style is so important when it comes to screenplays. I've read a lot of amateur screenplays, and there's two mistakes I see done most often. The first one is the formatting. The second is style, the way they write. They either write like they're writing a novel, way too much detail, stuff that shouldn't be in a screenplay. You should only write what we see and hear. That's it. This is not a novel. This is not you trying to write fancy prose. This is you writing a layout for a movie. That's what you're doing. It's like you're an architect and you're just drawing the house. In this case, you're writing out the screenplay. It's only what you see in here. Sometimes you can deviate from that and write a sentence that's not necessarily what you see, but helps paint a better picture of what it is we're seeing. The most valuable book I think you can get on this subject is a book called Style, and it's by Joseph Williams. I bought the ninth edition on Amazon for about 12 bucks. It's really worth the price. I can't go into everything that he says in the book because it would take way too long. So that's why I'm recommending to get it and read it. It's so worth it. It will strengthen your prose in everything you write, whether it's novels or articles for school or work or letters or in this case screenplays. It is the most valuable thing you can get for style for screenplays. The next thing is read a lot of screenplays. See how they differ from novels. For example, let's look at Assassins. This was the first one by. It's actually rewritten, like because we're looking at something that is going to be more of a director's writing, but it's written originally by the Wachowski brothers, the people that wrote The Matrix. So this is their first screenplay. So when you see things like we see that, we do this, and we pan down to dissolve, etc., this is mostly a director's thing because there are director's scripts and there are spec scripts. Most likely none of those things were in the original spec script written by the brothers, but was added later. Anyway, so what you will notice though, what you can notice from these different screenplays, even if they are not the original spec script, is the writing style. The writing style is simple. So as we go down and you check out some of the writing style, it's characters as subjects. That's the first thing that's taught in style. Make the subjects of your sentences characters. This simply means whoever is doing the something in the sentence, the doer in the sentence. Make him the subject. Make him in the beginning of the sentence. Put him in the most beginning of the sentence as you can. And then have immediately as closest to the noun, that is whoever is the doer of the sentence. So let's say in this case, Ketchum is the doer of the sentence. What he is doing is he begins to cry. So finally, Ketchum. So you put this in as close to the beginning of the sentence as possible to make him the subject of the sentence. Finally, Ketchum begins to cry. What does he do? Begins to cry. Notice that nothing left to say, a man in mourning of himself. These aren't exactly things we can see, but they are things we can see. And writing things like that is acceptable. And so is this also. This helps us see like how he might be acting in the scene, although it's not a sentence directly about what we would see. Sometimes you can start with lead-ins, that is phrases and clauses and whatnot, before you get into the actual sentence. The actual sentence is here. Wrath reaches into his jacket. So you could say Wrath reaches into his jacket. So what is the subject? What in this whole sentence here? What is the subject? It's Wrath. He's not in the beginning, but that's fine. Sometimes you don't always have to do that. But anyway, so Wrath reaches into his jacket, keeping the 22 steady, an inch behind Ketchum's head. Has easily been written that way, but they wrote it this way for a reason, to like build anticipation and to show the last thing he does is he reaches into his jacket. That way, the next sentence flows into it better. He pulls out a second, nearly identical silence, 22. Notice he pulls right there. So the subject, he, and it immediately follows the verb pulls right afterwards. Those are the main kind of sentences you want to write. But sometimes you'll see for style reasons you do want Because imagine if I wrote it this way. Wrath reaches into his jacket, keeping the 22 steady, an inch behind Ketchum's head. He pulls out a second, nearly identical silence 22. It doesn't flow as well because this next part, he pulls out a second, has nothing to do with Ketchum's head. So if you read it this way, it flows right into the next sentence. Keeping the 22 steady, an inch behind Ketchum's head, Wrath reaches into his jacket, he pulls out a second, nearly identical silence 22. Now it flows better into the next sentence. So sometimes for the sake of clarity and flow, you're going to want to write sentences with leading phrases. But you want to try to stay away from them. You don't want to write them that often. Only write them when they serve the purpose. Don't just write them for some random reason just because you think you wrote too many sentences that start with the subject. Don't do it for random reasons. Do it because it helps the flow if you're going to do it. Also, when you're describing setting, it's often going to be just like fragments. Tiled roofs, the stark white stucco, and so forth like that. You're not going to write actual sentences, but oftentimes you're just going to write fragments like this because we already know where it's at right here because you have the slug line, right, where you have the slug. So you have Edo's studio. So we know we're in Edo's studio already. There's no reason for me to say Edo's studio is dimly lit, and hardly anyone writes their screenplays that way. Rather, it's done like this: dimly lit. That's it. You don't even say it is dimly lit. You just say dimly lit. It's fragmented. Run down, futuristic. So this is the main place where you use your fragmented sentences. It's to describe the setting that the slug line is about. So it's dimly lit, it's run down, futuristic. Robot parts hang on walls, dangle from the ceiling, and even a few fully assembled bots, some with heads, some without, both male and female. I want to get to the point as quickly as possible. This is the main thing you want to do. So after you read Style by Joseph Williams, he's going to teach you how to write clean and lean. And clean and lean is the most important thing you can do when writing a screenplay. You want to write as lean as possible, but not so lean that it reads robotic. So there is some balance there. That is, you don't want to go so overboard that you're writing a book that sounds like and Spot runs and Spot picks up ball. Like you don't want it to read like some children's book, but at the same time, you do want it to be lean. You don't want to go too much detail. You want to get to the point as quickly as possible and paint the picture that we need to see. Once in a while, you can start, like I said, with little phrases like this in a corner, just to break up the monotony, to break up the roboticness of your sentences. That is, constantly starting with subjects. In a corner sits a bed that seems to grow from the ground. Lots of books around the bed and alcohol bottles. Notice fragments. I don't have to say there are lots of books around the bed. You can just say lots of books around the bed. On a wall hangs a sign, robot repairs. Edo, dressed in only shorts, boxes with Charlie, his outdated robot. Charlie's boxing glove smashes in Edo's face. Now notice, I made Charlie's boxing glove the subject rather than Charlie. The reason why is I wanted to paint a different picture. I wanted to paint a picture of a boxing glove smashing Edo in the face rather than, in other words, I'm sort of directing. It's my opportunity to direct. The way you write sentences can sort of hint at how you want the scene to be seen, how you want the scene to be shot. Now it's up to the director how he's going to do it. If the director decides to show the boxing glove, close up the boxing glove hitting Edo's face, that's his choice. But I have subtly put that image there in his mind by the way I wrote it, by simply making Charlie's boxing glove the subject of my sentence rather than Charlie. If Charlie were the subject, it would be Charlie smashes Edo in the face. And most of your sentences want to be like that, but if you want to paint a different picture, then you can write it differently like I have done here. Just make sure you do it with purpose. Edo shakes his head. Now, Edo is the subject. What is he doing? He shakes his head. So these look, you don't want to write all your sentences like so choppy like that, but boxing glove already off. Edo snatches up a bottle of booze and pulls a huge swig. The kind of sentence you want to try to stay away from or not write so often is Edo snatches up a bottle of booze, comma, pulling a huge swig. The main thing you want to do when you do write those kinds of sentences, they're called comma ing setups. So if I were to change this to a comma ing setup, it would be like this. And I have my cap locks down still. Right, pulling a huge swig. You have to make sure the two things can be done simultaneously. Otherwise, it's grammatically not, it's an illogical sentence. In this case, it would be an illogical sentence because Edo can't snatch up the bottle of booze and pull a huge swig at the same time. He has to snatch up the bottle first, and after snatching up, then he has to take a huge swig. That's why and is more appropriate here. So instead, I'm going to go back to and. Also, there's not a comma before and because what follows and is not a dependent sentence anyway. This is all grammar stuff. You really want to learn your grammar. Some people think that when writing a screenplay that you can just get lazy. Like, oh, I can't write a novel because I'm not good at grammar and stuff, so I'm going to try to write a screenplay. It's not going to work. You need to have your grammar look good because believe me, when readers read your screenplay and they see that it's written by an amateur, that is, your grammar's all over the place, your grammar's not good, your writing's not good, you don't write good, lean, clean sentences, you don't write like a professional, then they just set your screenplay down and they move on to the next one. They're looking for the best of the best because they want to invest, millions of dollars, and they're not going to invest millions of dollars in someone that doesn't look like they know what they're doing, especially a first-time writer. So make sure you learn your grammar. It's important. Pick up books on grammar and read them. Textbooks like Warner's book here. This is what Stephen King grew up with, actually, which is why I decided to get it, and it's really good. It's Warner's English Grammar and Composition, a complete course. I got this on Amazon for like, I don't know, $10, something like that. Good book, and you can pick up other books too, like Fowler's or something. I have that one too. But anyway, style is really most important for what this subject is about, and that is writing lean and clean. At the same time, though, you don't want a whole bunch of sentences that say, you know, Edo does this and does that. You know, he does this and does that. He does this and does that. You don't want a bunch of and sentences like that in a row because then it gets, it just gets, I guess, repetitive. So you can try to break it up by putting a comma ing setup in one of those sentences. Just make sure it's logical that both things in the sentence can happen simultaneously. You can also use then. That is comma then instead of instead of and if they're happening one after the other. Edo snatches up a bottle of booze, comma, then pulls a huge swig. You can write that, and that's perfectly acceptable. Some books will tell you don't ever use then, like some screenwriter's Bible. But the thing is, it's done all the time, even in first spec scripts that are purchased by Hollywood. It doesn't seem to have any effect on a reader. I guess there's that slight chance that this college reader read that screen Bible, the screenwriting Bible, whatever, and he has in his head not to use then, and he thinks it's a sound rule, and he sees that you use then, and it kind of taints his view of you of your writing. However, if you write with proper formatting, you write with white space, you write with style, with grace, clarity. That is, you write mean and clean sentences. Everything else is totally professional. Your story is good. Then it's not going to make any difference whatsoever. So actually, it's going to help the whole thing flow. Neither will common ing setups. Neither will starting with with little lead-in phrases. These are all good and fine. Actually, they'll make your screenplay better, I think. Finally, I'll end this particular video with white space. So what is white space exactly? White space is how much white space there is on the page versus black. You don't want big blocks of black. At the most, you want 3 or 4 lines of black, and then you want a space, and then start the next paragraph. One of the most easiest ways to do this, one of the most easiest ways to write vertically is what it's called, vertical writing or writing with white space, is to break up your paragraphs according to who is doing actions. So for example, one paragraph, I'll have Edo doing an action, everything that Edo is doing. And then somebody else does an action, that is now Charlie's doing an action. Rather than putting Charlie's action within the same paragraph of Edo's actions, I break it up, I put it into a separate paragraph. So now Charlie's doing something. When Charlie's finished and now Edo's doing something, I go back to Edo. Edo gets his own paragraph, Charlie gets his own paragraph, Edo gets his own paragraph, and so forth. So this is a good way to add white space, is just simply give each character their actions a new paragraph. Sometimes you can break up if you're writing a description of something, you can break it up by writing a separate paragraph for the new thing you're describing. So, you're describing the room, let's say, but you're describing a certain part of the room or certain aspects of the room. Keep that one paragraph and then break it up with another paragraph describing different aspects of the room. Another way you can do it is like I do it here, is breaking up with the em dashes. Anyway, I'm out of time now, but you can look at lots of screenplays to see examples of em dashes. Thank you for watching. Please leave, rate, and comment.